Hello, 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 and welcome to the second episode of Mixed Media Reviews Season 2. My name is Kelsey, and today I'll be talking about a TV show. This week's TV show is Peacock's original Vampire Academy. I had heard of Vampire Academy before. They are a fairly popular book series on the internet, of course, by Rochelle Mead, and I had read the Soundless book by Mead quite a few years ago. I remembered liking that book and also remember kind of looking into what other things she had written and came across Vampire Academy, and I think The Glittering Court is also by her. But that was kind of all I did. I never picked up any of those books. I also know that there was a movie. I had not seen it, but I knew that a movie had come out at some point. And then when I heard about the TV show, I think it just kind of hit me at the right time when I was in the right mood for it. I was itching for like a crappy teen drama, and this just kind of seemed like it would do the trick. In today's episode, I'm going to talk about the TV show, and then next week I'll talk about the movie, because I did then watch it after I watched the show. And then I will talk about the first book. I've only listened to the first book. Not sure if I will have gotten to the second book or not, because I am listening to another audiobook, and I think there was a wait on the second one. So yeah, we'll see. But in that third one, when I talk about the book, I will be doing a little bit of a comparison about how all three start out. So I think that'll be kind of interesting. Today's episode also won't be too spoilery. I'll leave the more specific details for that last comparison episode. So what is Vampire Academy, the show, actually about? On Google, the summary is as follows. Lissa, a royal vampire, and her best friend and protector, Rose, navigate romance, class politics, and ancient magic at their boarding school, St. Vladimir's Academy. As Rose trains to be a guardian, a mysterious bond develops between the two friends, and they must work together to decipher it, all while facing threats like the bloodthirsty and undead Strigoi. Which, to be fair, doesn't sound super exciting, but it was fine. So, what did I like about Vampire Academy? Well, like I said in my top 5 TV shows of 22 episode at the end of the last season, I genuinely liked this show. Definitely hit my teen drama craving, if you want to call it that. Kind of sounds creepy. But I think it was also pretty well done for what it was, beyond just being a teen drama that you might find on the CW. I really liked Rose and Lissa's friendship, and that they focused a lot on what it meant for them specifically to be friends, being that Rose is a guardian and Lissa is a royal Moroi, which is like their vampire term. It was obviously a bit of an odd friendship, both because it was uncommon for a friendship between a Moroi and a guardian, and because Rose was expected, if she were to become Rose's official guardian, even though she was kind of acting as her guardian anyway, but she was expected to put Lissa's life in front of hers. So obviously that might become a bit toxic, but we saw Lissa on numerous occasions trying to make up for that by also trying to protect Rose in various ways. And what is typically could be a very one-sided relationship, a guardian protecting a Moroi, it actually became very complex and more like a true friendship instead of a relationship out of obligation. I really did like the world building in this show. This was, like I said, my first introduction into the world, so I think that the way that they explained everything made a lot of sense to me as someone, who hadn't read the books and didn't have all that backstory. I even actually ended up preferring a lot of what happened in the show over the book, but that's, for another episode. With the Moroi, so if you had no idea what I was talking about earlier, the Moroi are the full vampires, guardians are half human, half Moroi, and then there's a third category of vampire, and that is the Strigoi, which are basically like evil, rabid vampires in the show, where they're either forced to turn or willingly took a human life, and that's what caused them to go Strigoi. I also really liked how they mixed it a lot with like Eastern European influences, with a lot of the names of, Saint Vladimir, Dmitri, Dashkov, Mikhail, lots of Eastern European names, and then of course they also mixed it with the Eastern Orthodox religion. Honestly, I think one of the main reasons why the show works so well for me is just the general kind of overall aesthetic of the show. It's a bit dark academia, which, like I said in the last episode, I was really into for a bit. Um, but it also had really cool old architecture mixed with new modern technology. And if you know anything about my architectural tastes, you'll know that I absolutely love the collision of the old and the new. We had old medieval architecture mixed with long linear LED lighting and advanced or more modern technology. I especially loved their outdoor training space because of this juxtaposition with all the new sleek kind of training equipment that's lit up with these long linear LED lights. And then in the background is just a medieval castle, basically. I really, really liked that. I liked the kind of almost gothic arch of a lot of the windows, the kind of more uh, somewhat gothic, somewhat medieval feel of all of the spaces, and yet it didn't feel like an old stuffy, like they just plopped themselves into this building. It felt lived in. It felt like they had taken time to update and modernize, some things. It wasn't just a generic high school, but it felt like an old city that had been revamped. revamped. Anyway, to allow a bit more modernity to their lives. The new cars didn't seem out of place in front of these old buildings, and it didn't seem weird that they had these modern gadgets, even with such an ancient backdrop. I think that they blended everything really well and did a great job of making it feel like an established world, much like a city that has been there for centuries and has been, updated throughout the years in order to kind of keep things a little bit more up to date. I also liked all the other characters, Dimitri, Mia, Sonia, Victor Dashkov, Mason, Christian, Mikhail, Meredith. I hated Tatiana, but you're not supposed to like her, so she did a great job, like everybody else. Dimitri and Rose had great chemistry, as did Rose and Lissa and Christian even. So I thought the acting was pretty good, and I thought the characters, had great chemistry as well. I really liked Meredith. She was fun. Overall, I just really enjoyed it, and I even have watched it a couple times now. So was there anything in this show that I did not like? Yes, there were a few. First, I was very confused why Rose had her mother's Australian accent. Rose grew up in the academy, and of course, one of the issues that Rose is trying to work on throughout the show is her very strained relationship with her absent mother, who is like one of the best guardians around. So, did they purposefully teach Rose English with an Australian accent? Because it's a fairly thick Australian accent. It's not like a watered down one. Maybe the actress couldn't do a convincing English one, or American one, but then it would make sense to have a more, slightly Australian lilt or something to it, because she's been around all these people and not with her mother, but she was with her mom for maybe the first few years of her life, so maybe she picked up a little bit of it. So I'm really confused because they never really address it, except for when Rose mentioned Lissa's brother makes fun of her for having an accent. But why does she have an accent to begin with? I mean, Dimitri has an accent, but he also didn't go to school there. He went to school in, wherever he was from, somewhere in Eastern Europe. So, no one else, at the school really has accents. So I'm really confused about it. And they never mention it. And she doesn't have it in the book, so I don't know. I wasn't really a fan of the whole feeding on humans is like a drug to them thing. It creeped me out a little bit since these were adults who the kids at the school fed on, and I assume that this was in Europe, like I said, where, the drinking age is typically 18, and maybe that means Rose is 18 since she's, drinking at a bar in some scenes, but the school must have younger students there as well. So are there children feeding off of humans who are, getting high off of them feeding off of them? That just feels like a super creepy dynamic. We never see anyone who's young in the background doing it, or even a lot of young children at all. But still, it's not really explained, and I just couldn't stop thinking about, like, what what would happen. Like, at one point, there's a scene where, like, Dashkov is at the, like, dining table, and there's just two people, like, laying on the table, and the table's, like, molded for them to, like, lay down, kind of sit in a seat that's also the table, kind of a thing. And so, like, is that what, like, everybody has a table like that at home? Like, or do they, like, I'm really just, how does an everyday human being, I mean, Moroi, how does an everyday Moroi, like, feed? Do they have someone come over to their house? Is, like, a live-in situation? Because, like, the school, they're, like, brought in to have these feeders, they call them, and then, like, they just send them away afterward. So then, do normal Moroi, like, everyday citizen Moroi, also do that? Or do they, like, go somewhere where it's, like, a feeding? I don't know. They didn't really explain a lot of it, and it's a little confusing. And also, it's pretty messed up that they look down on the feeders, because, like, they're like, oh, they're addicts, and it's like, well, you literally would die without them, so maybe be a little bit more appreciative and not so rude to them. But whatever. Anyway, lastly, I'm mostly just kind of annoyed that we have to get yet another streaming service in order to watch something. Like, come on, guys. Can't we just have one streaming service? Like, Netflix and Hulu was good. Netflix for, like, movies and older stuff, Hulu for more current things. And that was great. Now there's a million of them. Luckily, this one is not very expensive, but, like, I think I was paying $2 a month for one that had commercials, and now I've upgraded to the one without commercials for $5 a month. But still, like, they add up, There's a million streaming services. Luckily, I'm also watching, like, Law & Order SVU and Organized Crime on it, so it's a little bit worth it to have no commercials. And then we're also just started Weeds, which is on Peacock as well. So I guess it's worth it to have upgraded, but it's still, like, annoying to have yet another streaming service. Anyway, if you're into teen vampire shows, then I would definitely recommend Vampire Academy. I mean, it's still a teen drama at the end of the day, so if you're not about that, then this probably won't be for you. As of now, there is no word on a season 2, but hopefully it does get renewed and announced sometime this month, I believe, is when people are thinking they may announce it. I started reading the books, but they're so different that I don't know if it would even be the same to continue them with the way that this story has played out. So I'm really hoping for a season 2. And there you have it. Those are my thoughts on Peacock's Vampire Academy. Thank you so much for joining me. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Mixed Media Reviews Podcast. Please leave me a comment to let me know if you agreed or if you have any questions. You can also find me anywhere you find your podcasts, probably. Please join me next week where I will be reviewing a movie, and that is the Vampire Academy movie. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye!